This was Charleston, South Carolina, a city that, like every other in this country, sacrificed much of its valuable land and beautiful historical buildings for highways, parking lots, and modernist architecture. While it didn't face the same level of destruction as other places, as it had an architectural review board in place, it was still significant in its own right. And of course, away from the city center, suburbanization north of the city was vastly expanding, and it brought with it much of the city center population. It wasn't just modernism though. Hurricane Hugo in 1989 had done damage to 85% of the properties in the city. And so Charleston was faced with a question. Would it rebuild in the way of modernism and car culture that it had tapped into in the mid-century? Or would it rebuild in the beautiful traditional architectural style that characterized the city? Well, this is Charleston, South Carolina. As you can see, not only did Charleston clean itself up and maintain and even enhance its classical beauty, but it actually expanded it, with the Architectural Review Board in place, aimed to maintain Charleston's historical character and beauty. Charleston has refrained from the perils of modernist ideology, for the most part, into the 21st century. In fact, Charleston is one of the fastest growing cities in the country, having exploded in population in recent decades, as this is the sort of lifestyle in America that is in such high demand and yet is so scarce. Developers such as Glen Keys, Ramza, and Greystar have recently built so many incredible homes and commercial buildings, and apart from style, are also designed to maintain Charleston's walkability and respect its low-height nature. This is all regulated by the Architectural Board, who are very picky about what is built. And yet, Charleston is in a building spree. Just take a look at what has been recently completed. We talk about the virtues of traditional buildings and urban design on this channel, but it certainly applies to food as well. Modern-day, ultra-processed junk food made of chemicals is anti-human and simply isn't healthy. But Crow crackers are made from 4 organic raw ingredients and are fermented in order to bring out maximum flavor and nutrients. Use my discount code ALEX for 15% off at the link down below. Now back to Charleston. Charleston was originally settled by the British in 1672. But it originally had a rough go at things, with malaria plaguing its inhabitants and pirates such as Blackbeard having a constant troubling presence in the city. Charleston eventually, and unfortunately, became one of the most prominent slave ports in North America, which gave the city a majority Black African population. Even though slave importation was banned in 1808, Charleston experienced a major economic boom upon the invention of the cotton gin, with the city becoming a major trading hub for textiles. And it was during this time when Charleston began to embrace its unique architecture, being a mix of British, French, West African, and American South styles, creating a truly special aesthetic that cannot be applied anywhere else in the world. The use of porches and vibrant colors creates a charm that works perfectly for the region and its history. Thankfully, slavery is long gone in this region. However, most of the Black population has left the city, much of which was during the time of when Jim Crow had a foothold in the southern United States. While Charleston's history is deeply flawed and intertwined with some of America's most evil sins, the city has done well to evolve and reestablish itself, while maintaining the advantages of its traditional style. It's very tempting to cease all connections to such a past and shift away from the beauty and character in the architecture and urban design that was built alongside this troubled history in the name of progress. But beautiful cities are just that, beautiful cities. They are good for the soul and quality of life, and all beautiful cities anywhere in the world were built alongside tragedy and atrocity. Even today, cities such as Dubai and Doha have quickly become international cosmopolitan cities, with the latter hosting the World Cup. Yet, it was for the most part built on what is essentially slavery and indentured servitude. Or take any of the great cities in Europe, whose magnificence is in part due to the enriching of the continent via colonization. Not to mention how slavery was an established institution throughout the entire world for millennia. And while it is a crime that such a thing took place in the United States, we should also be proud that we were one of the first to end it and were willing to go to war in order to do so. And most importantly, that almost no one alive in Charleston today would consider supporting such a thing such as slavery or Jim Crow. Simply put, if we were to erase everything that was built alongside some form of evil, then there'd be nothing left, and nowhere to start. Rather, we should work to redefine how we view our own creations. Every passing year, Charleston remains a free, booming city, filled with people who love their fellow neighbors. And the less Charleston's past will come to define its beautiful aesthetic in the future. And that is something that should motivate all of us. And so, let's look into some of the really exciting projects that Charleston has lined up for its future. They are seriously taking things up a notch. Let's start with this: a surface parking lot along the iconic Market Street. And just look at the incredible design here by Ramza. It will contain a hotel, shops, and residences, along with a plaza and a garden. They did so well to not make a uniform design for the whole block, but rather divided the plot into succinct buildings, each with their own charm and additive qualities. And it really goes to show how much life and culture can be brought to a medium-sized parking lot. What an upgrade. And Market Street itself is going to be going through a redesign to make it even better for pedestrians. Next up, the new Liberty Senior Living Building on King Street, an incredible building that will be on the site of this. Certainly a great upgrade. And the idea of bringing seniors into the area is a great idea. They won't need a car to get around, and they will bring money and pedestrian traffic into the community. Though, one might say, what community? Because this area is not the best. Ugly warehouses and empty lots make up most of the immediate surroundings. But this space, between Meeting and King Streets, the major streets that go down the center of Charleston, is too valuable to allow it to remain this way. Therefore, massive changes will be coming into this area with two huge projects. The first is what's called Courier Square. There isn't much in the way of drawings and official designs, but here's what the layout is set to look like. As of now, this is just some nothing building, but what is being planned will undoubtedly be the new center for Charleston, with a town square and pedestrianized mixed-use buildings. And as you can see, this will be across the street from the Liberty Senior Living Building, as well as incorporate the Guild Building, incorporating this impressive facade into the square itself. The square will also be adjacent to the other massive project that is already under construction, on Line Street. Line Street, as of now, is mostly empty lots, with some historical homes and buildings interspersed, right along the I-26 off-ramp. There is also this abandoned train shed, and what Ramza is doing with this is simply amazing. Tons of new homes, plazas, pedestrian walkways, all in beautiful buildings that respect the city and the area's architectural heritage and add innovative, modern flair to its traditionalist design. When we advocate for new urbanism, this is what we're talking about. While this one larger building might raise a few eyebrows, it seems to be taking on an Art Deco-like aesthetic that could end up being great. This does go into another discussion about Charleston's development, which is that there seems to be a lack of middle density between the single townhomes and the apartment complexes. And this is true in a lot of ways. But there are a couple of important points here. There have been some more modernist-style apartment complexes in Charleston that are recently built and aren't the best. They aren't terrible, but they do lack character, and it's understandable that people might start getting concerned about buildings becoming oversized in the city with this sort of output. However, when the buildings are beautiful, and not just respect the architectural heritage, but actually enhance it, then I'm sure you won't see nearly as much criticism. The second point is that these taller structures are in the northern end of the peninsula, farther out from the main historic core, and so a transition to bigger, more grandiose buildings makes a lot of sense. You'll see this in historic cities around the world too, where medieval town centers in Europe are surrounded by less old and larger buildings. This way, you meet high-level downtown demand without having to destroy any heritage. Thirdly, you are starting to see some missing middle projects, such as these apartments that will sit on the other side of the Liberty Senior Living Building, in what is currently an empty lot. And with that, that's Charleston, which is easily the best example of healthy urbanist development for a major city in the US. And its growth and popularity serve as proof that building for beauty works. Let's hope that as its development continues, that other cities start to take notice and implement similar measures, as clearly having an architectural board that is passionate about maintaining the city's cultural aesthetic and lifestyle has been monumental in ensuring the success that Charleston's enjoyed and should continue to into the future. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.